get this off my chest. I guess the best way to describe my ex-girlfriend Janice was a ticking time bomb. We had only dated for a month, and it was very clear to me that she was unstable. We met at a bar in town one night, and things moved quickly from there. A few red flags of hers were she was obsessed with death. She would always say how wonderful and great the experience of death would be. She saw it more as pleasure than as tragic, which to each his own, but I found that all very disturbing and not someone I could see myself being with long term. When we finally broke up, I thought I could breathe again. Her depressing energy wasn't in my life anymore, but little did I know that this was just the beginning of the nightmare. The call started first, late at night and well past midnight. Janice would call me and just breathe into the phone. She would say things like she's not the kind of girl who gets dumped, and that without her, I'll be a miserable wreck. I eventually had to block her number because the calls and the texts became too much. But Janice was seriously relentless. She somehow texted me from a new number and started sending me cryptic messages like, "You're mine," and "Only I can have you." Then the visits would happen. She'd show up at my workplace, sitting in the parking lot for hours, just watching. I'd leave the office, and she'd be there, in her car, with no expression on her face. I even called the police at one point, but they said they couldn't do anything unless she actually threatened me physically. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. One evening, maybe a few weeks after we had broken up, I returned home with this new girl that I was seeing, only to find my front door ajar. I knew this wasn't good. I cautiously entered my house and saw that my house was a complete mess. My TV was shattered, plates and dishes were broken everywhere. But what was worse was when I entered my bathroom. On the mirror, written in now what I know was blood, was, "Till death do us part. You made me do this." And that's when I looked in the bathtub. Janice's body laid there lifeless and covered in blood. I immediately called the police and had an ambulance come over. In short, Janice had tried to kill herself in my home. She had broken down my front door, trashed my place, and then slit her wrists in my tub. Janice ended up surviving this whole thing, which was a miracle considering how deep she cut herself. The new girl I was seeing actually ended things with me because of what she saw and wanted no part of the drama. I moved away from that town and pretty much started over. I still have friends back there and they tell me Janice is doing okay, which is good, I guess. And telling the story always haunts me, but it needs to be told. Janice truly had a death-love obsession, and I hope no one has to endure what I did at the hands of a crazy ex. Thanks for listening. I never thought I'd be the victim of a batshit crazy ex-girlfriend, but here we are. I dated this girl Sarah, who I met in my last semester of college. Sarah was my type. She was charming, smart, downright beautiful, and a great cook. After college, we ended up moving into an apartment together. I guess where I went wrong was moving too quickly with her, because shortly after we moved in together, things really took a nasty turn. Anytime I would text or talk with someone else, even if it was my family, Sarah would become extremely jealous. She would tell me that all my friends and family were against her and didn't want us to be together, which wasn't true at all. The breaking point for me came when Sarah straight up said that I had to pick between her or my family. And I'm Italian, so for us, family is everything. So she made the decision easy for me, and I ended things with her on the spot. The apartment was in my name, and I gave her to the end of the month to be moved out. I thought she was crazy, but I didn't want her to be thrown out to the streets. Sarah found another place, and it seemed like the breakup was going to be pretty civil after all. But I was wrong. Shortly after she moved out, I would get constant text messages and phone calls from her. She would plead for me back. Her tone would go from calm and collected to furious and angry. I'm pretty sure she was bipolar. I tried to constantly explain to her that we were done, but it's like she couldn't let what we had go. Things started to escalate when Sarah would start randomly showing up at my work. I worked at Home Goods, and I would see her standing in between aisles, just staring at me. My colleagues would even notice, and it was getting pretty out of hand. One night, about a month after we split, I woke up to a noise outside my bedroom window. It was like a tapping noise. I went to go check it out, and what do you know? It was Sarah standing in my backyard, just smiling and waving at me. I had to threaten and call the police for her to leave. Then the next week, I had come home late from work. It was around 10 p.m. when I got home, but when I did, I noticed there were post-it notes all over my walls and mirrors. There were little love quotes and sayings, and the creepiest part, I noticed all my pictures that I had on my wall had been switched out with Sarah and me at different points in the relationship. There was even a message on my TV written in lipstick that said, "If I can't have you, no one can." That was the breaking point for me. I had realized I hadn't switched my keys to my apartment, which meant Sarah still had access to it. I ended up contacting the police and filing a restraining order against Sarah. They paid her a visit for breaking into my apartment and vandalizing my stuff. She was given a strong warning to stay away from me. Even though that had seemed to work, I still from time to time will receive letters from her saying how we're meant to be together. It's been about 5 years since this all happened, but I still can't shake the feeling that she'll just reappear or is watching me somewhere. She's seriously crazy. I used to think crazy ex-girlfriends only existed in movies and TV shows, but I found out the hard way that that isn't true. Last year, I broke up with my girlfriend Lisa. It had been a short relationship, not even 4 months. At first, things were good with us, but as time went on, I started to see that she was pretty toxic. She'd drink heavily, call out of work constantly. Her hygiene was pretty poor too, which honestly is what put me over the edge with her. I broke up with her as best I could. It wasn't easy, but I felt relieved to be out of that relationship. And go figure, Lisa didn't take it well at all. She cried for 3 hours straight with me over the phone. She bombarded me with paragraphs of long texts. I was trying my best to just be done with the relationship and ended up blocking her on my phone and social media. I didn't want there to be any way she could contact me. But Lisa had other plans. She would find ways to contact me through mutual friends or using other people's social media accounts. At first they were all messages about getting back together, but then they started getting obsessive. I was in my living room one night watching TV. I was super tired and was nodding in and out of the show that I was watching when there was a knock on my back door. I live by myself, and this had me pretty concerned, being that it was almost 11 at night. I cautiously approached my door and saw that something was taped on the outside window part of the door. I opened it and grabbed it. It was a sheet of paper that said, "Miss me?" I instantly knew this had to be Lisa. I was actually terrified that she had come out to my place this late. I looked around my backyard and didn't see anything. I seriously considered calling the police right there, but opted not to. I tore up the note and threw the pieces into my backyard. I swear to you, I heard soft giggling from somewhere in the darkness. The next few weeks went by with no issues. I did have these nagging thoughts that Lisa was somewhere out there and watching me or following me, but I did my best to ignore them and just continue on with my life. But of course, that's not what happened. It was a Friday night, and I was again in my living room alone and watching something on TV. I heard my phone go off and saw that I received a text from an unknown number. I opened it and saw that it was a video. I clicked it. It was footage of me, just seconds before, sitting on the couch and unaware that I was being filmed. Before I could even process the true terror of this, another message came through from that number. It said, "I see everything." I started to really panic. The video was of me in my house, which meant that someone else was inside there with me, and I knew it had to be Lisa. I searched my whole place, every room, every corner, but I didn't find her. I was still deeply unsettled and knew I had to at least call the cops to make sure, because at that point I was fearing for my life. An officer came out, searched, but didn't find anything. I showed them the messages and videos that I received, and besides a report being made, there wasn't much they could do. At that point, my lease on my place was coming to an end, and I thought the best thing to do was to move. I did. I moved entirely across the city and was just going to start over. However, not too long after I moved into my new apartment, I got an email one night. It had no subject, and I didn't recognize the sender. I opened the email and saw there was a picture attached to my new apartment and a message that said, "I'll always find you, babe." Since then, I haven't received anything from Lisa. How she had found my new place is beyond me, but she's a master stalker. Yes, I am terrified that she will continue to make contact, and if she does, I'll keep you updated. Stay safe.